that the stuff that we hold on to that creates problems for us and for others, things like we see, you know, things on television about people who hoard and fill their houses up with all kinds of stuff. But as well as physical stuff, there's all the other, the mental and things that we hold on to. Things, beliefs that we have about what should happen, about the way the world should be, about the way we should be. There are all kinds of rigid opinions. And then there's the resentments that we might hold about things that happened long ago in the past, and regrets about the things that we did or didn't do. There are habits that we cling on to that we know aren't good for us, but we hold on to them anyway. And then there are unrewarding relationships. And the list just goes on and on. In the Theravadan tradition, there are what are called the perfections, 10 of them, 10 perfections. And they are qualities. The first one is generosity, which in Pali is dana. The second one is morality, which is sila. The third one, which is the one I want to talk about tonight, is renunciation or Nekhamma. Fourth one is insight, or sometimes translated as wisdom, panya. Fifth one is energy or virya. Sixth one is patience or kanti. Truthfulness is the seventh one, satya. Resolution is the eighth one, adhitthana. The ninth one is loving kindness or metta. And the 10th one is equanimity or upekkha. It's probably better to think about them as qualities to be perfected, or at least worked on, since I've never yet found anyone who has perfected all of them. So I want to talk tonight about the third one, Nekhamma. Nekhamma is usually translated as renunciation, a very formal sort of word, which means to relinquish or repudiate something. For example, Prince Harry just renounced his right to the throne when he decided to exit the royal family. Just as a few thousand years earlier, Prince Siddhartha decided to renounce his right to the throne when he decided to become a holy man. So it can mean that's kind of very formal renunciation, but it can quite simply mean letting go of something that one already holds. So that for us, it could mean giving up worldly possessions. It could mean giving up patterns of thinking or patterns of acting that cause suffering and harm. It could mean letting go of the stories that we tell each other, that we tell ourselves. It could mean surrendering to the way things are, like it or not. It could mean accepting the impermanent nature of existence and relaxing the sense of self and opening oneself up to the wider world. There's another meaning for the Pali word Nekhamma that I learned from Venerable Tejadharma a long time ago. And I've found it very useful, this alternative translation of Nekhamma. That meaning of Nekhamma is not picking something up. So I first thought of this first thought of Nekhamma this time when I was scrolling through my phone, looking at emails. So if we think about what not picking something up would look like, if you're, scrolling through your phone, inevitably, you find that you're being alerted to all kinds of things that you might want to buy. Your Google is telling you about the sale that's on at your favourite clothes shop, or your favourite hardware shop, or your favourite bookshop, or your favourite art supply store, because Google knows more about you than your best friend does. So it's not just showing you any old stuff that you might want to buy. It knows the kind of things that you'll be deeply attracted to. So you're looking through this list of sales and thinking, yes, I would really like that. Yes, that's exactly the sort of thing that I would like. Perhaps I need to buy this for myself. Well, Nekhamma is that moment when you stop browsing and you say to yourself, actually, I don't need any more clothes or tools or art supplies at the moment. And just to make things perfectly clear to myself, I usually say, I'm not going to pick this up right now. Notice that I'm not cutting this off forever. I may come back to it later on, but for right now, I'm not going to pick it up. The more you can make that a practice of deciding not to pick up all of this stuff, the more you find that it simplifies your life. Most of us here are in the fortunate position where there's not very much that we actually need. We have food, we have shelter, we have internet connections, but we're in a constant struggle with our society that's always telling us that we need more stuff and showing us things that we actually want. Because as I said, Google knows us better than we know ourselves. If we can just stop for a moment and ask ourselves, do I really need this? We might be able to say to ourselves, maybe I won't pick this up right now. And it doesn't have to be material objects either. There are all kinds of things you can choose not to pick up. Things like opinions. If someone says something hurtful to you, you might find yourself stewing over it for days. Or you might say to yourself, well, that's their opinion, but I'm not going to pick that up right now. And then get on with the rest of your life. Even when something is a good idea, it might still be a good idea for you not to pick it up. Many years ago now, when I was president of the association, I remember one of our members coming to me and saying to me that she had this great idea of what the association should do. It should found an aged care home for Buddhists, an aged care home that would have a kind of Buddhist flavour and the right kind of food and all kinds of things that, elderly Buddhists might like. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. I myself might like to retire to such a place one day. But one thing I know for sure is that I haven't got the energy to do that right now. And somehow or other, seeing as we'd had the usual struggle that year to find enough committee members and people to take on the jobs of being treasurer and secretary and so forth, I thought, I don't think any of the rest of us have either. So I said, well, great idea, but I really don't think we're a big enough organisation to do this. Perhaps you could think about doing a bit of visiting to aged care homes and providing a bit of Buddhist input that way. So, as Bante's teacher was fond of telling him, just because something is a good idea doesn't mean that you have to be the one to put it into action. Choosing not to pick up things gives you more space and more time. And we all know that space and time are two of the most precious things in this life. When you have less stuff, it's easy to keep your surroundings clearer and more organized. They're more pleasant to be in. You don't have to spend endless amounts of time scrolling through things that you might buy. You have more time to focus on the things that matter, such as relationships and doing the things that you love. Living in this way, choosing not to pick things up, is relaxing, and it decreases the hassles and the conflicts. It reduces stress, improves the mood and the well-being, and grounds you in reality as it really is. The reality that probably for most things you already have enough. Choosing not to pick up things is a great way to start letting go. But sometimes we find that we've unconsciously acquired a whole lot of beliefs about the way things ought to be or the way that we ought to be. And these beliefs can be very damaging to our well-being and happiness. So how do we let go of those really ingrained beliefs, sometimes things that have been taught to us since childhood? One way is to look at the situation and to ask ourselves, what do I know for sure? Now, if we were sitting in the old Sangha Lodge building tonight, we'd be looking at the image of the Buddha on the shrine. And it's the image of the Buddha in Bhumispara Mudra, the one where he is sitting cross-legged and he's reaching down with his hand to touch the ground. This image shows the Buddha right after he attained enlightenment. It's in fact the very morning after. And he's wondering about whether he should tell his friends about his seemingly great breakthrough. When he's assailed by Mara, now Mara is the personification of the heedless. He's the one who distracts us from following the path to greater freedom and happiness. He's always tempting us away. And this time he comes to the Buddha in the form of doubting thoughts, which is one of his favorite ways of attacking us. So Mara says to the Buddha, you don't really call this enlightenment, do you? You're not going to tell anyone about this, are you? Don't you think they'll just laugh at you if you try and explain this experience to them? So I'm sure you've experienced rather similar kinds of doubting thoughts. But what does the Buddha do? He reaches down and he touches the earth. And he says, let the earth be my witness. In fact, the rain goddess appears and she acts as his witness. But he says, let the earth be my witness. This is true. It actually happened. He's essentially saying, what happened is as true and as solid as the earth. So any time you're upset about something, I want you to remember the Buddha statue and ask yourself, what is actually true in this situation? What do I know for sure? What is as real and solid as the earth? For instance, and this is a very simple example, I have seen yoga students who are unable to do a certain posture or a sequence, and they might go, I'll never be able to do this, I'm just no good at this. But if they were able to ask themselves what's actually true in this situation, they would have to admit, well, we did about 10 postures or sequences in that session, and most of them I managed quite well, but one of them was really hard for me and I couldn't hold the pose, I fell over. And when you put it like that, what's the big deal? We're never going to do anything perfectly all the time. This being able to let go of the stories that we tell ourselves and ground ourselves in what is real is a key element, if you like, of spiritual practice. But letting go of beliefs and not picking things up is not an all or nothing thing. To quote Ajahn Chah, who was a very famous Buddhist teacher from Thailand, he said, if you let go a little, you'll have a little happiness. If you let go a lot, you'll have a lot of happiness. And if you let go completely, you'll be completely happy. So it's a continuum. The more we can let go, the happier we'll be. And then another way you can help yourself let go is to notice if you've got resistance to letting go. Perhaps because it might seem weak to you or foolish, and you don't want to look weak or foolish. Or perhaps it might feel like it's against your culture or your personal background. For example, you might know the work of Rick Hanson. Rick Hanson's a neuroscientist and he's also a Dharma teacher. And he wrote about his friend John, who was having great difficulty with a woman that he'd been chasing after, who had made it very clear to him that she wasn't interested. And his friend John felt frustrated and hurt. And so Rick says to his friend that maybe he should just surrender, give up and move on. To which John replied fiercely, I don't do surrender. It took him a while to get past his belief that surrender or letting go meant you were wimping out. Instead, it takes strength to let go, and persistence and insight. For instance, we hang on to injustice. We remember when someone treated us unfairly. Sometimes we remember that our whole lives. Just think back for a minute. Do you remember a time in primary school when someone treated you unfairly? Well, I remember the time when I was in second class and I was 6. And we were learning to write the alphabet. We were copying in a copybook with pencils and working our way through the alphabet. And I made a mistake with the letter B, and so I rubbed it out and started again and did a better B, and off we continued. And then suddenly our teacher said, I don't want you to use your rubber with this. If you make a mistake, just leave it there. And then when she came to correct my work at the end, she said to me, you used the rubber. You rubbed out the letter B. I told you not to do that. And she scolded me. And I have not forgotten that to this day. I think it was because it was the first time I realized that a grown-up could be unfair and wrong. But it's amazing the way that we can hold on to these unfairnesses and resentments our whole life. Rick Hansen says, our brains are like Teflon for good experiences and like Velcro for bad ones. So the good experiences just slide right off us. Yes, something lovely happens and we're very happy for 5 minutes or so, and then we've forgotten that. Whereas the things that happened, the unfairness that happened in second class when you were 6 years old, you'll still be remembering that 70 years later. Letting go, I think a lot of people are under the impression that letting go means that you have to condone bad behavior. But you can decide that to let something go, and you can also decide that you don't want to have anything to do with that person again. You don't want to work with them, you don't want to see them. But it means letting go of the anger that's eating away at you and getting on with your life. And then some simple ways that you can also begin to train yourself to let go. When we're not letting go, when we're holding on to something consciously or subconsciously, we're holding tension in our body. So to begin the letting go process, try to let go of the tension in the body. Exhale long and slowly. Activate the parasympathetic nervous system that helps us rest and digest. Let go of holding in the muscles of your belly, your shoulders, your jaw, and around the eyes. And just feel that physical letting go and how it can feel like a release. Another way to start training yourself in letting go is to be aware of the letting go that happens naturally all day long. It could be really simple things such as releasing objects from your hands. Pick something up and then I put it down and I let it go. It could be hanging up the phone and you think to yourself, okay, letting go of that phone conversation. Could be pushing send on an email and thinking, okay, that's done, letting that go. It could be moving from one thought or feeling to another one in your mind. Could be saying goodbye to a friend, letting go of one plan and making another plan. Could be just putting out the garbage. Take it out, leave it out there in the bin and say, just another letting go. Notice that letting go is all right. Sometimes it's really good. It's a normal part of living. You can let go of all kinds of things and keep on going. It's necessary and beneficial. And this way you become more comfortable with letting go. And of course, you can clear out the possessions that you don't use or need. Find out how great it feels to finally have some room in your cupboards, in your bookshelves, in your drawers, in your garage. Every now and then you run into an idea or a belief that you've held on to for way too long, and you can see how it would feel to let it go. For instance, the idea that everything you do has to be perfect. That's an idea you could do without. So practice dropping that idea and replacing it with a better one, like, I'm doing the best I can with the time I've got available. Pick up a grievance or a grudge or a resentment and resolve to move on. This does not necessarily mean letting other people off the moral hook, just that you're letting yourself off the hot plate of staying upset about whatever happened. If feelings of hurt still come up about the issue, be aware of them. Be kind to yourself about them. Just acknowledge, okay, I'm still feeling bad about that. And then gently encourage those feelings out the door. Time to get on with something else. Letting go of painful emotions is a big subject. But quick summary of some of the methods that I like. I've already mentioned doing something physical, do some yoga, go for a walk or a run. Swim is great. Relax your body and feel those bad feelings flowing out of you like water. You can write it all down in a diary or a letter that you're never going to send, and then let that go. For a good chunk of my grown-up life, I used to keep a journal kind of, that I used to think of as Susan's little book of vitriol. And I used to write down all the things that really annoyed me or the things that I was really angry about. And occasionally I used to think, what if I die and someone finds this? But so far, I think I've lost the book. I haven't seen it now for quite a long time. But, you know, if you should discover it, if I've lent it to you by mistake or something, I didn't feel like that all the time, but it was my way of getting rid of some of the anger, some of the hurt that I didn't want to keep carrying around. You can talk with a good friend. So in general, let things be pleasant without grasping after them. And try and let things be unpleasant without resisting them. Let things be neutral without prodding them to get more pleasant. Letting go undoes the craving and the clinging that lead to suffering and harm. And then you can also let go of who you used to be. Let yourself learn and grow and therefore change. You can let go of each moment as it disappears beneath your feet. It's gone as soon as you're aware of it. You can abide as letting go because of the miracle which none of us really fully understands, that the next moment, with the promise that things can be different, continually emerges as the present moment vanishes. So that's all of my advice this evening on letting go. And probably even more importantly, not picking things up. Do you have any questions or comments or stories of your own about letting go?
Yes, thank you, Sue. That was brilliant. It's come at the right time for me because my recent big operation has also kind of shaken me up to look at what do I want the rest of my remaining years. And quite a bit of it has to do with what I've got to let go, yeah. And what I want to continue to do, or what new areas I want to explore or whatever, you know. But a lot of it is what you're saying this evening, you know? all that's no longer useful, all that is holding me back, to let go, let go, let go. I also found it very useful when you advise the trainings to let go, starting with even just the body breathing out. And then, of course, the more difficult, letting go of painful feelings from the past, or injustices from the past. But they're all trainings, aren't they? And we can train our mind. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Enkong. It is one of the things that I keep finding the older I get is things change, and without any warning, suddenly you forced to think, I have to let go of these things. I was just telling Bronwyn just an hour before we got together, I had a phone call from a good friend, another yoga teacher. We taught together for 15 years, went to each other's classes, and she rang to tell me that it looks as though she has bladder cancer. And they are still doing the tests, but it's not looking very good, really. It's looking like it's large and invasive. And she said, you know, I always thought I would be 90 years old and still teaching yoga. But, you know, it's not our choice always. Sometimes we have to, we're forced to let go of the things that we loved to do. I said to her, she said, another friend had said to her, if I were a praying woman, I'd be praying for you now. And I said, well, I am a praying woman, not perhaps in the Christian sense, but in the Buddhist sense. And I'm going to be meeting with a group of Buddhists this evening. So I'm going to ask them if they would keep you in their practice and wish you strength and courage to go through all of the treatment. So over to you guys. Yes, Bongzi, yeah.
It reminds me of these recollections that the Buddha urged us to practice, being to remind ourselves that we are of the nature to die, we are of the nature to get old, get sick, we are of the nature to inherit the karma that we have done. And I think the benefit of recollecting that frequently is that it helps you to let go when things do happen that are unexpected, because you've really trained yourself to sort of expect that to happen already. It's not really unexpected. It's something that you understand very clearly, and so I think that's a very good practice that I tend to do as well, even though I'm not very old. But I think, you know, sometimes young people get intoxicated with youth, and so that they don't think about how things will progress, and so they're not so heedful of these things that can happen. So just an offer of these recollections to help others. Yeah.
Thanks for reminding us of it. That's one of my favourite practices, the 5 daily recollections. It's and it's hard to believe when you're young, and it's even hard to believe when you already are old that you will grow old and that you will lose everything that is bad, dear and valued. That there's no way of avoiding old age, sickness, and death, and that you will inherit the fruit of your actions. But the more we think of it, the easier it is to remember, and the easier it is to let go, because in one part of our minds we did know this was coming. All right, shall we do a little practice for 25 minutes or so? Okay, so this practice that I'm going to do with you this evening is called letting go of the meditator. So make yourselves comfortable, find your usual yoga position, not your usual yoga position, your usual meditation position. And make sure that you're sitting with your back upright, your shoulders over your hips, so that the body's well balanced. And you can allow the eyes to close. So tonight, I'd like to invite you to let go of the meditator, the one who's trying to get it right, the one who wants a calm mind, to be relaxed. Tonight, I invite you just to sit, even letting go of the word meditation. Sit alongside whatever comes your way. Whether you're sitting on a chair, on a cushion, or a sofa, take your hands and just place them on the belly. And take a long, slow, deep breath in, all the way down into your belly. Feeling the belly rise and expand. And then as you let the breath out, feeling the belly soften back towards the spine. And then in your own time, take 2 more of these deep, slow breaths into the belly. And then let your hands come back to their usual position. Let your eyes be closed. And begin by just noticing how your body is right now. Is there any tension or tightness in particular areas? Is it possible to allow the shoulders to let go a little more? Allow them to release and sink downwards just a little. And tune into those neutral or soft areas in your body that might not hold any emotional weight. Feel into the tingling in your hands. Notice the coolness or the warmth in different parts of your body. Feel the weight of your thighs pressing against the cushion or the chair. Not trying to search these areas out, just letting them bubble up, come to the forefront of your consciousness, and then letting them move back and fade away. As you do this, softening a bit more, allowing the weight of your body to sink down into the surface that you're sitting on. Allowing gravity to relax your face. Other things might come in as well. Thoughts and feelings, perhaps, or sounds. And if your attention is called out to sounds, allow your attention to go there, and then let it come back to the weight and solidity of your body, sitting. If you find that you're getting caught up in thoughts, you find that you're playing an active part in making up a story, that's okay. Thoughts are a bit sticky. They tend to pull us in. So if you notice that, it's okay. Just notice. Ah, there I was, caught up in that thought. There's no detaching to be done. It's already happened. There's no correction to be made. Here you are, present to this experience. You can let go of that one who's trying to get it right, trying to follow the guidance correctly, trying to find a state of peace, of calm. Letting go of that one and just being here with your senses. Sensing the world as it appears to you and doing this with kindness. Meditation isn't about being a robot and cutting yourself off, pretending everything is okay. It's about being real and kind. So if difficult thoughts arise or unpleasant sensations, thoughts that are unpleasant. If there's an underlying static of anxiety running in the background, be kind to yourself. And if you do find yourself lost in any of these unpleasant experiences, you can do what you need to do. Come back to your breath. Breathe intentionally for a few breaths. Or as an act of kindness to yourself, you can put your hand on your heart. Feel the warmth of your hand and say to yourself, it's okay. Whatever is here right now. It's not my fault. I didn't create it. I haven't chosen it. And then when you feel centered and grounded, allowing yourself to step back, doing almost nothing, sitting with yourself just as you are, sitting with sounds and thoughts and feelings. Sitting with all the things that arise each day. Noticing all the things we often miss or avoid or react against. What's it like right now not to add anything to this moment? What's it like not to be a meditator? What's it like not trying to get it right? What's it like to be with your own experience without judgment? To be with your experience with openness and trust? And inevitably, things that come up will hit that sore spot where we've stored difficult feelings over the years. That's okay. Deal with it as best you can. Allow those feelings to pass through. just being the witness of experience with kindness and care, wherever you find yourself right now. Letting go of the judging self in your own way. Accepting that you'll be carried away by thoughts and feelings from time to time, but you can let it go, let it be. You can find the stillness beneath all of this. Find the still, deep water below the turbulence on the surface. What's the true nature of this moment? If we have no memory, no past, no regrets, no future to plan for, what's truly here in the present moment? Now noticing how you are right now, having spent this time in presence, in awareness, or whatever word fits your experience. Notice how your mind is, how your body is, how you might be in relation to the sounds of the outside world. You can take a few deep breaths if you want to. Feel your body on the surface you're resting on. Maybe feeling a sense of safety, of peace. Maybe a feeling of instability at the constant movement of phenomena. Always moving, always changing. And knowing that you are the stillness underneath all of this. This meditation or non-meditation is a way to come back to the awareness of that stillness that lies beneath all the stuff of our daily lives. And as we finish, reminding ourselves that we practice not just for our own sake, but for the benefit of all other beings. May any benefit I have received from this practice flow to all of the beings I come in contact with. May we all live out our lives free from suffering, with great peace of heart and mind. Opening the eyes now, coming back to awareness of the objects in the room, and perhaps moving and stretching the body a little. Thank you for joining us this evening, joining us in practice and exploring the Dharma. Good to see every one of you. Hand over to Bronwyn. Thanks. She can tell us next week.
Thank you very much, Sue. That was a terrific talk and a really, really interesting meditation for me anyway. That was, yeah, no, thank you very much. And thanks for people for their comments, because they were really, they kind of resonated for me as well. Just quickly, next week, Bhante Kaliko will be speaking on cultivating the awakening factors. Now that will be both at the Buddhist Library at 7:30 and also on Zoom at the same time. So it will be, we'll be broadcasting it via Zoom from the Buddhist Library. So maybe, I know I won't see you there, Rita, but maybe you'll join us via Zoom. And the only other thing just quickly to mention is that AB is going to start doing weekends of practice at Vajrasala for people who are members. And so that the first one is, it's kind of happened a bit quickly, but the first one will be next weekend from the Friday evening, from the Friday through to the Sunday. So there'll be more information in the newsletter and on the website about that. And, you know, maybe it's something that, you know, it will be happening throughout the year, pretty much once a month, unless Vajrasala is busy and booked out. But yeah, it's sort of something for the members. And like I said, there'll be more information in this week's newsletter. So that's it from me. Look, thank you again, Sue, as always, for your wonderful teachings. And thank you to everybody for being here. It's very nice to spend a little bit of time with you all. I hope you have a lovely
Us non-meditators.